This week on RSBANDB Update, 2 right-click examines are upon us. The first for Group Ironman, we run down competitive mode, and which of us are converts. The next for the skilling boss, which leaves us asking just what a skilling boss is. Also, dive changes and Sanctum Telegraphing. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 998, recorded Thursday, August 8th, 2024. Diving into Group Ironman. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. Parnassius, welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to have you with us. Still filling in for Tanis. We'll be seeing Tanis again soon. I do know that much. I do know he'll be making.
He will
an appearance.
be back. You won't have to put up with me full time. You can get rid of me soon.
Well, no, well, 1,000. We'll leave it at that. I don't want to put the cart before the horse on that. But also, this of course delayed the introduction of the wonderful Lemon. Welcome back to the podcast.
Always a pleasure to be here.
And you are here because we got news on Group Ironman today. A bit of a late surprise on that, but ranked 60th Ironman in the world, and you are looking forward to Group Ironman. At least that's my read on it from the discussions that were happening in Discord. So we're gonna have a bit of a discussion about Group Ironman in just a moment, but also, of course, coming down the pipe, skilling boss, right-click examine, RuneScape Ahead, and patch notes for the week. But, of course, I want to thank our experienced tier Patreon members for whom without RSBANDB Update would not be possible. This week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Lemon Lodge, Mr. T., Ricky A., Rippeth, Runestar, Tim, and The Naked Captain, and Truth Ray. Big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. More on that a little bit later in the podcast and how that all relates to the big 1,000 on the way. But, of course, in the meantime, full show notes can be found in-game. Or, you're not going to find the show notes in-game. I'm getting ahead of myself. Full show notes at update.show. You can find the Friends chat in-game at BitsBytes and the community Discord at update.show/Discord. Alrighty, right-click examine Group Ironman. And, based on what we were seeing in the roundtable, or in the roadmap that we saw last time, it looked as though we're probably going to get this around maybe September, October. I'm thinking probably October at this point in time. And the general feedback discussion topic here is that as what was laid out in this blog is what they're wondering, is this what you expected Group Ironman to be? I'm gonna just ask you, Lemon, very quickly on this. What's your quick initial rundown of what we saw today on this?
I am really pleasantly surprised.
Okay.
A lot of we'll get into some of the details, but this is all I could have hoped for and more, basically. And they are really doing. They're taking a lot of time and really considering how things should be handled. What should the rules be? What does the shape of the game mode look like? Which is fantastic because I felt like a lot of that wasn't really done when Iron Man mode was established way back in the day, and there's been a lot of inconsistency.
And there's a lot of questions about what Iron Man mode is today and what they can access and can't and all that. So, fair enough on that. How about you, Parnassius? I know you have your Iron Man alt, Iron Ass.
Yeah, he is no longer actually an Iron Man.
Oh, okay, so you de-ironed on that.
When we did the golden party hats, because I was trying to collect as many party hats, I de-iron-fied him then.
Okay.
So yeah.
Do you see yourself building one, competitive or non-competitive, with this?
I mean, if I did it, with a group who was doing competitive, I'd probably jump in, because being home full time, I actually have that that time where I can do the grindy stuff that the others in the group wouldn't want to do. I can say, yeah, I can go and do all the divination, or I can go and do the fishing, or get those resources that people hate getting. I mean, it's an interesting thing, but in competitive, you'd really have to get a group of people you know and trust, because
specifically who aren't going to flake out.
Exactly right, and that's that's. I've never been a team player. I like to do things on my own.
And that leads us to, I think, one of the very key revelations about RS3's Group Ironman is that competitive is going to be locked, as in you won't be able to add people to it. But for regular Group Ironman, if somebody flakes out, you can just find a new person to join that group, and you can already bring existing Ironmen to that group. Because the whole point of it is to allow you to share the journey with a group of friends who are also on the same journey as you.
Yeah, but that's sort of, they're going to have a high scores for that as well, which sort of doesn't seem fair to me on the normal. The competitive where everyone starts at 0 and goes, yep, but the high scores on the regular one you have to take with a grain of salt, because if I bought in Iron Ass, I mean, he's almost maxed on everything anyway, or was before I sort of converted him. It's like, how is that fair to someone who's coming in with a couple of
and hence the non-competitive aspect of it, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to go through a bit of the post here, and in addition to sharing the same group, one of the core tenets of it is to have parity at a minimum with the old school Group Ironman system. So that means groups of 2 to 5, a definite rule set for Group Ironman, which is different from normal Ironman. The competitive and non-competitive members can freely trade items to each other, which, everybody's going to love that. The group bank. I remember way back when, a number of years ago, people asked for Group Ironman, and they said that the group bank was going to be one of the biggest hurdles for it. So it's good to see that will not be a problem here for the RS3 engine. In-game tools to manage the group-specific broadcasts, which can be customized personally, and unique armor for players in Group Ironman. So that's the parity aspect of it, which, for people who aren't familiar with OS Group Ironman, that's kind of how that works at that point.
Again, though, you'd really want to trust the people you're with, because if you have a fight with one player, and he can just go and empty the whole bank on you and just screw your whole team up.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that
maybe that's what I'll do. I'll troll a team.
Oh my god. No,
I would never do that.
No. There's also going to be RS3 specifically journey achievements, which means things like qualifications from archaeology, providing a wide variety of challenges and tasks across the whole of the world, requiring the group to come together and complete. That would be interesting, I think, doing archaeology qualifications and achievements like that.
Yeah, that's the one thing. When I read that, because I didn't really read this until we come on this morning, because Iron Man is not really my thing. But when I saw these sort of achievements and such, if I had a group that sort of just needed a grinder, it's something that I would probably look at joining, just simply because of those achievements.
Like, I know lots of skillers, and I would, if this was something that was starting off, I know lots of skillers, and given where I'm at in game, I could definitely, see a necromancy-based Ironman necromancer and farmer being a good thing. So that would be my idea behind it. Also, we mentioned the competitive already, more freedom in the group storage. So not only tradable items will be available within group storage, certain untradeable items, including augmented weapons and armor, will be able to be stored here. So you could have a group inventor.
Which is good. I like that.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. The tightly designed rule set, the Together as One group management for removing group members and other important decisions will require a supermajority to enact to ensure safety for all group members. So you can't go and be the asshole.
Yeah.
and greater group identity through cosmetics, which of course makes sense with RS3. So, Lemon, what do you think about the plus side of the Parity Plus here in terms of these things? Which one of these jumps out to you the most as being a big thing here?
So for me, the well-defined rule set is something that I really appreciate. Because, so I've been playing Iron Man mode since before Iron Man mode was released.
Okay, so you were basically self-sufficient and you just imposed the restrictions on yourself before that.
Yeah, and then, 6 months later, whatever, the mode actually released and I jumped on board. But over the years, we've had so much waffling back and forth between, what are the rule sets, I am somebody who's a little more maximalist in terms of restrictions. If I had designed the game mode, you would not be allowed to partake in any sort of group content because that's the way. Because they have
relaxed things over the years, like group dungeoneering, group PVM, and whatnot.
Yeah, we used to not be able to PVM with mains, and now we can. We used to not be able to dungeoneer with other players, and now we can do it with other irons. So, yeah.
Okay.
But in terms of I have my eye on the competitive mode, and for that, all group activities are locked within your own group, right? So
Which
if you
absolutely
want to,
has to be that way.
So if you want to do, I don't know, raids. You need to be able to do raids in a maximum of a 5-man team, which is certainly doable. But there's a certain skill cap there, right?
Not if I was on board.
I think the lowest,
there is going to be certain content that's going to be locked based on your skill level and the size of your team.
That's interesting. Now that you mention that, given where we're at, and with necromancy and everything to that has compounded that and the other combat stuff. That makes it really interesting, those group PVM things in particular, because you could imagine there being like a golden achievement for something, Yakimara related or AOD related that requires your group to complete something there. So, that's good. In particular with the journey achievements, what they say with this is these are to help groups find a direction if they don't have it all planned out when they make a group. So, it's very similar to qualifications in archaeology, which help guide the player through the skill and earn increasingly better rewards. And I know when archaeology came out, we said that skill wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for the qualification system and the journal associated with it. So I think this probably bodes very well for Group Ironman here on that. As an example, for Journey Tier 1, it would be achieve 50 multiplied by the group size total level across the entire group, achieve 5 multiplied by the group size quest points across the whole group. All group members must have completed Cook's Assistant. At least one group member has completed the Scourge of Mistlin achievement, and at least one group member has completed the Provider of Mistlin achievement. And these achievements will be available to all players on the release of Group Ironman, and with these being added and other new achievements to better help the scaling difficulty of Journey Tier achievements, where existing achievements don't cover what was required. So what they're doing is they're in effect adding a basic, I guess you could say, achievement-style path system for everybody, but is going to guide Group Ironman. The Scourge of Mistlin is to kill 3 cows, goblins, giant rats, wizards, barbarians, and get 5 rune score, while the Provider is to gather 10 logs, 10 shrimp, 10 copper ore, and 10 tin ore, as well as gain 5 rune score. So it's forcing your group out into the broader depths of the game, which is good.
And this is a bit that interested. I mean, if you asked me last week, there's no way I would even contemplate doing something like this. Reading what they're doing, it's like, ooh, this actually sounds interesting to me now.
Yeah.
And if they can convert someone like me to consider it, they've done a bloody good job.
Right. And just imagine how it would be if you got, say, 3 skillers and 2 PVMers together, and a bunch of people, 2 or 3 of them have crossover between those. You could have a very powerful group in that regard. And one thing I'm wondering is there going to be, in the competitive mode, like a world first for the first group to get Quest Cape, because that's something I could see the wonderful folks of Clan Quest doing, right?
I'm sure we're going to see all sorts of, because all of that infrastructure is already in place, right? And it would be such a missed opportunity if those weren't included.
Yeah, and they say the journey system will allow you to focus on certain areas of the game, like quests, PVM, skilling, or generals who can cover the requirements for the other group.
First to do all the area tasks, filling the journals and things. Oh, see, now you get me more excited.
You're signing up for a broken amount of Dominion Tower there.
I'm happy. I didn't mind Dominion Tower. Dominion Tower was one of the first ones I did on that side of things.
Lemon, what's your opinion on Dominion Tower?
Dread nips are useful again, so hey.
True.
Yeah,
true.
That's why I thought, Dread nips, great. So I just did Dominion Tower to get as many dread nips as I could. And the temple trekking. See, I know you hate temple trekking. I enjoyed temple trekking.
Oh my god.
Trying to protect that idiot old man who just kept running out charging people. You had to try and protect him and things. That to me was fun.
Temple trekking is fantastic. You know, back in my day, back when Ironman mode started, your best crafting experience was doing temple trekking for silver bars and then smithing them into tiaras. It was 50k XP an hour, and we loved it. Now you can just mine gems or something stupid, and it's terrible.
Oh my god!
Anyway.
my 4 things.
I could do the livered farm for you.
Yes, go for it. Go for it. We've just talked about my 5 most despised activities in the game.
Which are the ones I enjoy.
Temple trekking, Dominion Tower, Mage Training Arena, and Barbarian Assault.
Well, see, Barbarian Assault I haven't done, so I'm doing that by horns off the trader. But see that's the thing, and that's what you need to do. You need to get a team that is diverse like that, where you're going to have someone loves doing this, someone else loves doing this. You know, you hate that part, but you've got someone who loves it. So great, you do that. I'm doing this, and that's you can't have 5 people who all love the same thing, because it's going to be hang on. Who's
like you can't have 5 PVMers who hate questing.
Exactly.
So, now the difference is with Parity Plus is that rather than being ranked and unranked like in old school, they're calling it competitive and regular. And I think the interesting part about this is the competitive angle, because they say competitive has the simple principle of guiding all the extra rules applied to this mode. Benefiting, being assisted by, grouping or interacting with another player who is not in your group is forbidden.
Yes.
Interacting, so you know, talk to them.
I mean, you can probably talk to them, but just no trading.
I know. I was just
But
I know. I was being facetious.
They say a lot of content is locked to either only you, so that either you can only play with your group, or locked completely due to the multiplayer nature, which can be influenced by outside players. So, does that mean there's going to be content that you can't complete then, based on this? This means that a lot of content is locked to either only you can play with your group members, or are locked completely due to the multiplayer nature, which can be influenced by outside players.
The way that I'm reading this is either, I think we alluded earlier to, like raids. If you can, maybe that was pre-show. Either way,
no, that
raids.
Was in the show,
if you can do it with 3 people, great, fantastic. There are people who can do it with 3 people. There are people who can do it with less than 3 people. But if you are not God tier PVM, you may not be able to do raids.
Yeah.
Then there's also things
sense.
like...
Which is perfect. I mean, that's,
And then there's also things like mini games and stuff. How exactly is that going to factor in, right? If you want to do Flash Powder Factory to get your botanist outfit for Herblore, well, that is you would be interacting with other players. So is that going to be something that is off limits, or are they going to find a way to make that work
with
for
5.
competitive group iron?
Yeah.
And, but the way that the mini, that would be larger, like, mini game reworks, because, that takes place in a shard instance or a shard world. So, like, I don't.
I feel like
that.
the biggest thing that's going to be impacted by this is mini games, because I'm
sure.
fairly certain all the PVM has been done with at least 5 people, like AOD and raids and whatnot.
And mini games are a very weird space as it is right now for irons, because you can do some mini games you can't do. A lot of the rewards are off limits. Any, like, XP rewards are off limits for irons. So there's also, like, not a lot of point in doing a lot of mini games. So
yeah. Also on this, competitive group Ironman members must do 100% of all damage of a kill to earn any drops on bossing, and the bosses where instancing is available will be free for competitive group Ironman players. Okay, that's good. Competitive group Ironman can only be accessed by new accounts, and here's the big one. A competitive group Ironman can only replenish its numbers if someone leaves with fresh accounts. So that's the one.
Okay.
That's the one where you really got to make sure everybody's committed. Because if you all get to level 100 and then 1 or 2 drop out, well, that's going to be, that's effectively the table going to be supporting itself with 2 legs for a bit. Well, those other 2 legs grow back. So.
Okay, but just a fresh account, I don't mind so much.
No, yeah. So the competitive stuff is going to be all brand new. There's that. The group storage stuff, I think the biggest thing on this comes from, invention specifically. If you're going to be trading augmented items, are you also going to be able to, ship the divine charges around? Are you going to be able to use those without getting the requisite invention level? Because remember, invention is 80 divination, 80 crafting, 80 smithing. So are you going to have to unlock that before you can start using these augmented items, or are you just going to be able to use them? I feel like those kind of things are still outstanding, but will be ironed out in the interim here.
Yeah.
And I think this discussion on invention is a wider look into some of the issues that invention has. They say, and I quote, "Augmenting an item in RuneScape is so important that separating perks, de-augmenting, would prove not only an incredible barrier to trading these items, but also wasteful in terms of perking the perfect gizmo. And this was incredibly important in the early design and something frequently requested and talked about. So getting this in for group storage makes it feel like a truly cooperative experience."
Yeah.
And that's true about all invention. It's a pain to work with on it, and probably needs a QOL pass at some point. But we talked about that before.
I'm assuming the way that they're getting around the trading of specifically augmentable items, but a lot of untradeable items in general, is going to be like it can be put in the group storage, and it it won't be able to be put in the trade interface or anything like that.
Yeah.
I've seen people talking today, saying, "Oh, that's great that they're adding that to Group Ironman, but that needs to come to mains too." Which, there's certainly a conversation there.
That's what I would say on that. There's a conversation to be had.
They were sort of bypassing the technical difficulties with that.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay to get the perks that I want. I just hate the RNG associated with it for invention stuff. So that's my main concern. But, as they say, you augment something, slap it on there, and then, you got to de-augment to trade that. That's not going to fly.
Yeah.
Then they got a whole rules glossary here covering things like founders, group Ironman, competitive, and whatnot. The entire actual rule set, for anybody who wants to read this. I think the most interesting one is number 7, in relation to removing a member from the group. Says that while anyone may initiate a vote to remove another member, but all active group members must vote to approve for it to go through. And active members are defined as a member who has logged in to the game in the last X days, which hasn't been decided on yet, or rather is decided by the group, and changing the setting takes 7 days to take effect and may not be under 14 days. The default value for X will be 30 days. They also got a way to deal with inactive group leaders involved in this, and there needs to be a total renouncement amongst the entire group to, in effect, dissolve the Ironman group on that. And if you leave a group Ironman, you will keep all items and stats earned or given by the previous group. So I think that is interesting, and it kind of, I think, provides a more casual way for people who just want to play as a group of friends, or, maybe have something already in their friend group that's kind of like that. Just those ones will gather together, and then the real interesting push will be on the competitive side, I think.
That number 10, I mean, the stats earned, no worries at all, but keeping all items, I think if you're leaving a group, the items that you've earned with that group should stay with that group.
Well, then you create orphaned items.
Yeah, I think the technical barriers on that is going to be difficult. Whose bank would they move into, that sort of thing.
And I mean, hey, if you put it back in the group storage or your group mandates you do that before you go, then that's another way of, I guess, going around that. So, we've gone through most of the stuff here in the competitive phase, and I think the other thing that we're seeing here, specifically on the RS3 side, they say greater group identity through cosmetics. And they say everybody loves cosmetics and influencing how their character looks in the game, and Group Ironman wouldn't be the same if you couldn't shout about how proud you are of your group and the achievements it has completed. So everybody will have access to actual equipment that is both practical in combat, being a hybrid armor, but also stylish. And with this, it is also unlocked as a cosmetic and can be upgraded as a cosmetic through 3 additional appearances, which are unlocked through the Journey tier achievement system, with the final and most impressive upgrading coming with the 10th and final tier.
As long as we don't all have to sort of wear our budgie smugglers like Sirion.
And maybe this is something that will get people involved in this. There will be new milestone capes for the whole group. These represent the culmination of phenomenal group cohesion and are the group max cape and the group quest cape.
Can I just say I hate you, Jagex?
You're doing this now?
I was dead set against bloody Iron Man. now you're pushing me into it. And what's even worse, it's coming out about the time I will hit the 5.8 bill on my main account.
Well, hey, it's something brand new to do, right?
I know. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, Jesus, what are you doing to me?
If anybody is presently looking for a questing clan and likes the idea of this group questing cape, join the Clan Quest Discord or the Clan Quest clan chat, and I'm sure as this percolates down the pipe, you'll find a group to do Group Ironman with, because I can definitely see us having a few of those there, both on the casual and the competitive side. So the gauntlet has been thrown down.
Everything I'm reading, they have really done a great job on what they're bringing out with it.
Yeah.
I mean, last time we talked about this, I was dead set. I was nah, not interested. Stupid thing. Don't want to do it.
I'm still on the fence. I'm still on the fence.
No, what they're describing here has really tipped the scales. I mean, if I had the right group, it's something I'd be definitely interested in, and
All right.
putting another bloody Premier Club on my account.
Lemon, get all the RSBANB boys.
Yeah,
together for a group.
I mean, we could do that. I don't necessarily know that would be the most optimal group, since we don't have anybody, ultra high level PVM on that. We have questing and skilling people who know how to do that well. Lemon, which way are you going? Are you going to join a group for your existing Iron? Or are you going to do a competitive? Or
so one thing to note is that the way that they have sort of structured the hierarchy of Iron modes, so to speak, you can take an existing Ironman into the normal group Ironman. That is a downgrade. So you can move a normal Ironman into group Ironman, but you can't move a group Ironman into Ironman. If you want to leave group Ironman, you either you can leave your group and still be a group Ironman sort of orphaned for a little while, is the way I read that.
Yeah.
But you can only downgrade to a main.
Right. So you're gonna want to find a group, or just be a group of one in that case.
Yeah. So I have no interest in migrating my account over.
And that makes sense with it being very close to complete at this point with the rank and whatnot, right?
Yeah, sure, I could move over my account and secure rank 1 on the group Ironman high scores, but what's the point? I any groups that I'm joining, I would want that to be competitive, just because I feel like that's the way, for me, that's the way this game mode should be played. I certainly think that the normal, more relaxed version is going to be optimal for a lot more people.
If anything,
for what I'm looking for,
the normal version makes Iron Man easier.
Yeah, and in some ways, I think the competitive version is even more hardcore than Iron Man is.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know. I don't know how many I will make. Let's put it that way.
Oh, you're talking about how many there's going to be from you already.
Yeah. So I have a couple of friends, that I've known for 15, 17 years, something like that at this point.
Sure.
So we'll get the gang back together, and we'll the three of us will we'll run an account, run a team, all that sort of stuff. But I would like to have a more competitive, more hardcore team than people who
I see
log
it
in to RS3 once every couple of months,
right?
And somebody who hasn't logged in since...
on the competitive aspect, we had people in Clan Quest do Fresh Start and get the inverted quest cape, which looked like a fletching cape with a quest icon on it, but that's beside the point. I see part of the thing that I need to do as a clan leader at this point is start organizing this and making sure we have at least one team from Clan Quest that's going to be in the running to be going for the world first quest point cape on this, because we are the questing clan on that. So that's something that I don't necessarily know if I'd be a part of myself, but it's definitely something that I need to start organizing and pushing some levers on for that. And because I've never done an actual Ironman before, I think I would probably be inclined, if I were to do this, to go the competitive route, just because everybody would be on fresh accounts from the very beginning, and we'd have the division of responsibilities and have a general idea of what we wanted to go for. With that, I think I'd rather do the competitive version than regular group, because if I was going to do the regular group, I'd log off from this show and make the Ironman and then just add it to a group on day one for people who wanted to play, right? So that's kind of where I'm at on it, but I'm not committed either way. But I feel like this is a good opening salvo and getting the discussion going. And to go back to what Mod Timbo asked in this right-click examine, is this what you expected from Group Ironman? So with that being said, everything we've gone over, everything that's in the post, give it a read for yourself. You can relay your feedback back to the devs involved in this in the RCE chat combo and the RCE dev discussions channel in the official Discord, and there is a link to join that Discord at the bottom of this news post. But that's Group Ironman.
No, it's a hell of a lot more than what I expected.
Yeah. I think the only thing that is less than expected is just that hardcore Group Ironman is coming later. It's not going to, as it's currently slated, it's not going to make the release date. They're pushing that off rather than push back the release date, which is a shame that it has to happen that way. But, something has to give to meet deadlines sometimes.
Do you think that it's going to deter many people if they're not able to do hardcore on day one?
I definitely know some people who will be deterred. But the people that... The circles I find myself in are sometimes more elite circles.
Fair enough.
So, like, one of my clanmates is Nanami Kwon, who is he was the first and I think the only hardcore Ironman to get IFB.
Oh, wow.
He did it like a couple of years ago, a year or two ago, and they only finally added the marker, I think. Like 2 weeks
that was
ago.
last week.
Yeah, and it's funny because he actually doesn't have it right now because he still needs the forecast pet. But anyway, so like there are people like that who are only really going to want to do hardcore Group Ironman. I think you're probably going to have. I think it is a shame from like a content creator standpoint that hardcore Group Ironman isn't coming until later, because I think that you'll probably have more traction in the creator space with it.
You're reading between the lines exactly what will be happening with this, I think.
But you can also look at it as people can just make the normal one and go for it and learn before they start the hardcore.
Yeah, but we're talking to people already who play RS like 12, 16 hours a day.
Yeah. True, yeah.
I know there are people out there. I don't play that much. I've never played that much, but I know there's people out there who do play that much and listen to this show. So
I have like an average of like 6.5, 7 hours a day on my account since I created it 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's not like bad, especially with given, mobile and whatnot in this day and age, right?
Yeah, COVID really helped with those numbers.
Yeah, I can see that. I
do 40 plus hours a week.
I'm just thinking how fun the group archaeology grind would be on this.
Yes.
Oh, it's going to be fun for everybody except for whoever's the designated porter baker.
Even those aren't that bad. I had
you gotta find the gems.
Porters.
You get the divination level.
Yeah. Where do you get the gems aside from PVM? Because I know like the modern bosses spit dragon stones out, but as an early Ironman, where do you find the emeralds, rubies, and diamonds?
Probably, you're going to be doing gem mining for your crafting for the most part. So I'm trying to remember I think it's up to ruby that you get from the normal gem rocks, but I might be misremembering. It's been a long time since I've mined gem rocks. So it's probably not that big a deal. It's just training the invention and getting the energy. One thing that I did have noted down and that just jogged my memory, we mentioned earlier, content that involves other players. Yeah. The competitive GIMs would not be able to partake in. My read on that is also that includes Wilderness Flash events.
Oh.
Which really changes the shape of the game, in my opinion, for the better. I think WFUs are way too overpowered.
Because I know that those came out at the start of Fresh Start, and they were massive for leveling certain skills in Fresh Start.
Yep.
And your halls of Gothics, everyone trains at divination down there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll see what all of this shakes out with, but for me, removing things like Fresh Start or not fresh start, wilderness flash events. That is a really good improvement. Like that's very much one of the things that feels very out of line.
I mean, normally I'd say that's not okay, but this is going to be a subset of the population, probably a small subset of the population. And we had been saying for a number of years that it seems like RS3's push forward isn't necessarily finding new player base; it's finding the ways to get the existing players to play the game differently, and this is one of them. So
I think this is going to be really great for a lot of people. I don't know how often most players will start a new account, and I think that is such a wonderful time. Those those first early levels.
Mid-range RS is probably the best it is in the game, I would say.
Yeah.
But
there's so much early game stuff that you just never appreciate when you're
people think it's crap, but it's actually got better. And and this will be the last thing on this, talking about Hunter in particular, when I made my skill peer, the first 28 levels of Hunter were pretty bad, but then Het's Oasis comes out and completely changes early level Hunter to that point, and just smooths a lot of things over with it.
The Menaphos for your mid-level players.
Menaphos as well, yeah. Lots of things about that, but there's something else that's coming in the meantime. We learned that next week is 110 mining and smithing, and we got another right-click examine blog this week talking about the skilling boss. So we're going to get into that right now, but before we do that, just want to thank our Patreon supporters for this week. This week I'd like to thank Alvaro L., Amos Reed, Andrew C., Arvids L., Brayden K., Gilbura, Daniel W., Dominic R., Duramax, Gila Fleur, Jacob G., Jade Gizmo, Jason S., Jesse W., Keski, Lemon Lodge, Luminos, Mongrath, Mr. T., Pernasius, Ricky A., Rippeth, Robbie D., Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, Targaryen, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Truth Ray, Ukulele Steve, and Zant. Big, huge thank you to all of our Patreon supporters out there. If you want to learn more about what this is, head on over to patreon.com/RSBANDB. There we're working on our next monthly bit right now that'll be going out next week. It's a discussion about skill expression in RuneScape, which is an interesting time to be talking about that, given the skill boss. We're going to be looking at skill bosses, skilling encounters, that's things like your big game hunter, and just lean forward skilling and see if there's actual skill behind skilling in RuneScape, because, PVM people always say, well, there's skill expression in PVM. We want to see what does that look like in skilling. So if that sounds interesting to you, head on over to patreon.com/RSBNB, and you can get that immediately when it drops for as little as $1 a month. And we have 70-plus other monthly bits there as well, including world-famous tier lists like the Daily Scape system, the skill tier list, the quest tier list, the PVM tier list, and so many more. Patreon.com/RSBNB, and with that, you also get a mention in our show notes and the ability to vote on our monthly bit topics. We also have the VIP tier, where for $3 a month, you'll receive a special VIP rank on Discord, which includes chat channel access, a mention on the podcast at the start of the month, and high-quality stereo versions of the show. For $5 a month, you'll receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week, and gain access to the clips that we use to make the clip show at the end of the year. We'll also, of course, send you the RSBNB Update Christmas card in December, and just this once, the special episode 1000 card as well. And then we also have one slot remaining at the Experience tier. Experience tier is the premium premier version of supporting us on Patreon. You get the platinum shout out, the ability to attend a live recording, and have a pre-show Q&A. And with that, you're also going to get periodic mail-outs, and the periodic mail-out that's coming very soon is something very, very special to commemorate episode 1000. So special that only a few people know what it is. I don't know that I'm going to tease what it is, but I will just say it's probably something that's going to knock your socks off when you see it. So get the imagination going. Start that discussion in Discord. See what it is. See if you can come up with any ideas of what it might be. To our two panelists here, you guys have any idea what it might be? And To the listeners, these two have no idea what it is. Any guesses?
Knock your socks off. Shane's gone to Nike and got an RSBANDB pair of runners made. Hey, they do it for everyone else, don't they?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not gonna try to guess because I know I'll be wrong.
All right, fair enough. Patreon.com/RSBANB. Thanks so much, everyone. All right, so from Group Ironman, we go to skilling bosses. We only have one of those presently in game, and that's Croesus. The folks behind this one include mods Kitsune, Ramen, Shrike, and Asana, as well as the skilling boss team behind the blog, that is. So the feedback topic they'd like is, what does a skilling boss mean to you, and what drops should appear on skilling boss drop tables? And I think it's interesting that first we have to define what a skilling boss is, because I feel like that's kind of a gray area, isn't it? Still, for
is
RS3.
Croesus really a skilling boss?
Right, and see, that's the thing. I don't know. What do you think, Lemon? What makes something a skilling boss?
I know it when I see it. I guess is what I would say. I do think Croesus is a skilling boss. I do also think that Big Game Hunter really ought to be called a skilling boss, but that's
to me, BGH is more of a skilling boss than Croesus.
I don't necessarily disagree with that, yeah. In terms of, shall we say, skill expression and skilling.
Right, because you, at Big Game Hunter, for example, you're obviously using Hunter, but you're also using woodcutting, fletching, and a little bit of herblore involved in there, too, sometimes. So...
yeah.
I mean, yeah. But they define it as an encounter that is resolved using skills and a non-combat focus. So, like using gathering skills to collect resources, and then artisan skills to craft tools to solve problems, or using support skills to work around problems. Now, they also say this doesn't mean that combat skills can't be helpful or be involved, such as using prayer to cleanse or bless objects. They had to include that because of Croesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's also designed around a central entity, which, you could maybe say one way or another that Big Game Hunter doesn't do this when you get, 2 or 3 dinosaurs on the field, but that's more of a, an aha moment to amplify your reward there. So I think Big Game Hunter still satisfies that. And then
the multiple dinos is a hell of a lot more stressful too. I really enjoyed those encounters.
Oh yeah. I back before I knew how to do it and had the smaller rings around the multiple dinosaurs, it was something that was like, oh my god, am I actually going to be able to do this? And yeah. And then they say is a boss, which means expected mechanics and systems such as loot tables, collection logs, boss pets, and boss fights that are designed to be repeatable. So, I mean, if we're looking at this, really the only thing Big Game Hunter is missing is the collection log and the boss pet.
Right.
But we already got little dinosaurs from elsewhere, so it's kind of beside the point on that. So that's the general idea of what a skilling boss is. And it's interesting because they do mention Big Game Hunter. They say this is a rough explanation, as some players may reasonably describe some other things in game that tick several of the boxes and aren't described as skilling bosses. Looking at you, BGH. A minigame, the focus sees the activity on itself. And then they give the example of the Croesus encounter, with the goal being to put Croesus back to sleep. So the first question is, what makes a skilling boss in the player's eyes? So does this... The thing that, I don't want to say bothers me, but the thing that raises my eyebrow with this is that it feels like we're still trying to figure out on the RS3 side what a skilling boss is from the community perspective. Because if you ask an old school player what a skilling boss is, they immediately know because they got 3 or 4 of them. So, if things followed the path that Croesus took, would the both of you feel comfortable in using that as kind of the template for skilling bosses in RS3?
Sure.
Okay.
I feel like I don't really have strong feelings on the matter.
Okay, fair.
Nah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing is like with Croesus, I would have preferred to have seen armor/outfits that benefited skilling rather than
the magic tank armor.
Exactly. There's these skilling bosses are the perfect place to drop off hands and drop enhancements to skilling outfits to make elite skilling outfits. Things like that give you some sort of tangible bonus and reward that is going to be highly useful in skills themselves. Croesus having the magic tank armor, which at the time was a godsend. That armor, I was able to do so many bosses, just sit there, flick on the prayers and just tank through everything and not worrying about eating and doing that type of thing, because it's just taking at the time up to 90% of the damage. It's like it's almost
to be
squad
fair,
mode.
They are entirely open to hearing the discussion on that. Because one of the things when it comes to rewards is what kind of rewards do people expect from a skilling boss? And one of those questions is, can combat gear drop?
I don't think combat gear should ever drop from a skilling boss. Combat is for combat. Skills, skilling bosses should drop skilling outfits. And that's the thing with Jagex. They are always open to listening to their community. I mean, no one, you can say what you like about them. They will always listen and try their best to accommodate what the majority feel.
Yeah, and, I feel like we've had a lot of PVM stuff since Elder God Wars, and I think at this point, the skilling boss should probably drop skilling related things and not necessarily combat gear this time around.
The other thing is also, though, we need to look at on the PVM side the amount of skilling resources that come in from those too.
Yeah, and see, that's another thing that is here. What should or should not be in the common drop table for this boss?
Yep. That's a question with every boss encounter.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
But I feel like in some ways it is more acute in a skilling encounter, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, just remember the sheer amount of mushrooms that Croesus dropped, right?
Yeah.
As an example, which was too many at the start, and I think they did tweak it down.
Yeah, I think they ended up tweaking a lot of the drop table. But...
Yeah. And see, the interesting thing is that maybe, and this might be another way to do it, looking at Wintertodt, for example, on the OS side, what if the skilling boss, and I don't necessarily know if you could put the XP rates high enough for this to be valid on RS3, but what if the core thing behind the skilling boss was that it was one of the, key ways to train a certain skill, and it had, a couple of rare drops behind it and not too much on the commons, because that's the same sort of thing that Wintertodt does, is that if you don't want to do lined fire making in old school, you go to Wintertodt and you do that as your fire making XP, and it's still very, very fast.
Definitely. I mean, a skilling
but
boss.
The thing is, how does that compete with, level 90 plus training methods, with the Protean items, with lamps and all that? And those are just so many extra factors that need to be taken into the account of balancing this.
Yeah.
So,
I guess we don't entirely know as of yet, but what skills are we talking about here?
Exactly.
Because, okay, if you want to, let's just say, I don't think it's going to be primarily a woodcutting boss, but let's just say for the sake of example, it's going to be a woodcutting boss. Well, if you want to do golden bamboo as your training method currently, that's 700 800 KXP an hour almost,
right?
So to have something be better than that,
right? And then the thing
why
is,
can't you?
That I'll just say this, then you can go burn.
Yeah.
But the thing is with that is that if you can't eclipse that XP rate, what do you drop on the woodcutting side? You don't drop. I mean, maybe you can drop some logs, but I think woodcutting right now after, you know, the woodcutter's grove last year is in a good spot. So I don't think you can do that. I think woodcutting spirits are going to be offensive to get from something like this. So you're kind of in a corner with this.
Yeah.
But what is wrong with consumables that help enhance things, like, you know, things that'll give you a 20-minute 15% XP boost, like those primal bombs that we sometimes get, you know, something that will give you 10% more collection at golden bamboos, so you don't have to keep island hopping. You know, there are other things that they can bring in that aren't going to hurt the actual resources, but just give you more time or a bit of bonus XP or something like that. That's you know,
because
that's an option.
Because like the last thing I think we want is for the gathering of woodcutting
to drop even more.
To drop even more, because it's good where it's at right now after the woodcutter's grove. Just like mining and smithing is good after things settled out after that initial rush, which I might be saying something different next week, but we'll see. We'll see. So
yeah, the only thing I would say about that, and I don't personally have a super strong opinion on the matter, but this is something that I have heard from old school players, where they look at like what is required for like efficient skilling in RS3, and there's just so much stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, you need your hatchet and your and it's got to be augmented and it's got to be perked, and then you need your outfit, and then you need your familiar and your urns and your urn enhancer, and then your woodcutting accumulators, and then you need your juju potion, and then you need your aura. And I'm sure of the offhand, right, and the cape, and like it goes on and on. So I do think that there is reward space there, but it's also, you know, and now you've got your wood spirits as well. So there is reward space there, but there's a lot of complexity that's already there, and that's not including any of the stuff that I don't understand, because I don't know what dwarven whatever they're called are, or anything like that comes through. Yeah, that
you said for either double XP or double resources.
Right. You know, there's that stuff as well.
And I mean, you compare it to, you know, even something like Zolcano on the old school side. The whole point of that boss is to make getting things like adamant and rune easier, because they still only got a handful of locations to get runite ore. So even then, it's a boatload easier to get things like the Animicas and Elder Logs in RS3. So I'm almost at the point where I don't think this thing can drop common skilling supplies if it were woodcutting. And emphasis on woodcutting. We just chose woodcutting as a hypothetical here, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe they just need a farming boss. I don't think they said what the skills. I don't think they said what the skills are going to be for this, did they?
No, but we can get. I guess we can probably have an idea, given that it's going to require. I don't know if it's how far up through the fort quest line, but it's going to require at least some of the fort quest line and necromancy.
Yeah, I mean, based off of what we talked about in the lore episode last week with the font of spirit, maybe runecrafting.
Could be.
That could be an aspect of it.
You know, they've certainly teased, you know, requiring some combat skill, or at least getting some boon.
The necromancy quest.
Yeah, you know, and you know they've alluded to prayers.
How do we feel about that?
Prayers. It could be a necromancy ritual.
Yeah, how do we feel about that, with skill prayers effectively being left out of this here?
It's a shame.
Yeah,
it's a shame. I don't necessarily disagree with Mod Jack and his reasoning. So, you know, for instance, he said that, paraphrasing, but, you know, he said with Elder God Wars, you know, they lowered, I guess they didn't lower, they eliminated any requirements, right? So you could walk into Elder God Wars with a fresh level 3 account, and you could theoretically do Croesus. I mean, you're not going to do very well with, level 1 stats, but you can walk in. There's no requirements.
It was for a while a broken way of training Hunter there.
Yeah, and the idea was that, well, without having a laundry list of skill quest requirements, you're going to have higher engagement. Well, actually, we really didn't have higher engagement, and in his opinion, led to a less coherent and rewarding game. So I don't necessarily disagree with that. But,
and I feel like Croesus was also interesting because it used a lot of the movement mechanics too, which were inherent to PVM at the time. Like, that's where I learned to dive surge, for example.
Sure.
If you didn't watch your feet, you were thrown out, and that was very difficult for a lot of people. It had some accessibility problems at the start color-wise. So, I mean, Croesus was definitely very punishing and definitely earned the boss title on that. And I guess the question is that, you go back to this other point here underneath phases, which I'll just touch on briefly here. The idea behind it is there'll be 2 phases, the preparation phase and the endgame phase. The preparation phase, as it sounds, you gather resources and use them to strengthen protective measures. It'll be a combination of gathering and artisan skills. Then in the endgame phase, all heck will break loose, players will be under attack, and will have to work to keep their defenses up using the resources gathered in the first phase. And with this, the boss will be active and vulnerable, so you can juggle offense and defense to put an end to the corruption. And this phase will last until either the boss has been defeated or the players fail, and it will be soloable, actually, with this. And that gets to the point I wanted to make, in particular, about skill peers, and maybe why it's not a bad thing that skill peers are out of this one, is that it's going to use life points and not stat reduction. So with this, you won't have your stats drained during the encounter, which, of course, everybody remembers. Croesus required copious amounts of super restores. And with this, part of the challenge of a boss is that you can lose, so you run out of time to stop the boss from building up their I win attack, or the repeated attacks, which will wear you down, and then the boss wins. For this boss, it's going to be more streamlined. The player's life points will be the health pool, and they will be scaling with incoming damage based off of the HP level to make the encounters more accessible. Also, this will be a safe encounter, regardless of using life points, so you don't need to worry about death on that, which I think makes sense as a skilling boss.
It's the same as Winter Toad, right?
Yes, exactly.
The damage scaling.
Exactly. And they're actually changing that out in the short term, because the way it was is that it was a lot more efficient to do Winter Toad when you were, say below level 30 hit points, and if it got more difficult as you headed higher and higher. So right. Hopefully they'll be learning from that, and I bet they will, because they said they're consulting with the old school team as well on this, which I think is a good shout. So, I don't know. I feel like I can't really... I think, look at Croesus, look at Winter Toad, look at Volcano, and if you look at all those things and you combine them together, I think the skilling bosses feel more like skilling bosses on the old school side than Croesus did, if that makes sense. I don't know, Lemon, if you have experience with the old school skilling bosses.
Not firsthand, but I'm very familiar with them through videos and stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Pern, do you?
No, I haven't done any of the skilling bosses over there.
All right, fair enough. But I'd say just, Croesus is good, but let's look at the old school ones to kind of see where that is and take that from there. And I feel like we're at a loss to talk about the other questions in terms of the rewards here, because it's kind of dependent, like we said, on what skill, in that what a woodcutting boss drops compared to a divination boss or a farming boss is going to be entirely different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
but what's also, I mean, as Lemon was saying earlier, and I can't remember if it's pre-show or after we started, but things like Flash Powder Factory for hardcore Ironman and such, what's wrong with having something that can sort of give you, just give you, as a very rare drop, some shards that can be made into other skilling.
Right, so you don't need
outfits.
to do that content, because that's another annoying piece.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose if you're looking at a skilling boss as a training method, a la Winter Toad, that makes a lot more sense as a reward space, as opposed to, like an end game skilling encounter type of thing.
Precisely. And see, that's the thing, you can't get away with that on RS3 because XP rates are so high in the Winter Toad example.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to get the high end resources in the Volcano example. So RS3 kind of has to chart its own path, and I think, well, Pernasius and I don't know where you stand on this, Lemon. Where do you stand on the combat gear dropping from a skilling boss?
I don't have a strong feeling about it.
Okay.
I think that, this is sort of just me and my personal values of the stuff that was dropped from Croesus. Like the Crypt Bloom was the least the Spore Sack was the least interesting.
Spore Sack.
But other than that,
the Spore Sack for?
It just holds your seeds.
Oh.
That was such a bake saver for me, though.
The Crypt Bloom is like the least interesting reward for me from Croesus. I think the offhands are really interesting and really great.
Yeah.
I think the Big Book was
great for cluers.
It's extremely powerful. It's too powerful. I really think that was a mistake, but it has really good, interesting rewards outside of the Crypt Bloom being there. Yeah. I think that there's a problem with it being, in some instances, your end game magic gear coming from
tank armor at that too.
Yeah, but like your end game magic gear coming from something that you would be doing from a relatively low level. I think that's
and
where
something
the
you can
mismatch
mass
comes from.
too at this point relatively easily.
Sure, yeah. So I think it's more of an issue for me of like mismatch between the value of the combat reward versus the ease of entry.
Yeah, that's fair.
That makes sense.
I think one thing that would be interesting if that did turn out to be a woodcutting fletching boss, tier 95 crossbows if we were on the combat track. Not necessarily in full, but just dropping, like a stock or something, or components of them that you could use your skills to fletch them out.
Upgrade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, upgrade.
Because
the
what are we missing? We have the tier 95 staff and wand. We have the only thing we're missing is tier 95 crossbows.
Yeah, or if they ever add two-handed necromancy gear, which who knows?
See, that I wouldn't mind so much if it dropped an upgrade that went onto the T92 crossbows.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it upgrades the level below, that's fine.
Yeah, but I think the die has already been cast in that with what we saw with the wands. So,
yeah, I don't see the RuneScape 3 team doing that. I know that's a lot more common in old school.
Yeah.
I don't see that being something that the RS3 devs choose to do. Especially, I think some of the tier 92 gear, I don't necessarily know that Blightbounds fit into this, but some of it is disproportionately difficult to get. Which is why we've seen such a correction.
Solak is speaking there, isn't he?
Yeah. I've only done one Solak kill, so I can't really comment on Solak, but like Magister, like nobody should have to grind out those Kopeshes in this day and age.
No, of course not.
I went post 200 mil getting those.
Oh my god.
Because part of that's just I already had a
I got on that same thing. I got Magister yesterday for a Reaper task, and it was 14 of them, and I just said no, that's not happening.
No,
but he's so easy.
He is, but I just don't want to buy the keys.
Fair, yeah, it's fair enough.
Not knowing what I'm going to get back out of it.
Yeah, but I mean, I still don't understand. I mean,
what don't you understand?
The two games, run side by side. What's wrong with looking at the success of the skilling bosses that are running in OSRS?
Oh no, I think they're great mechanically. They're great
converting
mechanically.
them into RS3. Okay, this works great. It's something that's tried and true and we know works over there. Let's bring it to RS3.
So you're just saying bring over Volcano or Wintertoad or something.
Remember when they first started OSRS and they were talking, we're going to do this and we can use OSRS as a bit of a sounding board, and if it works well over there, we can bring it to the main game and things like that. I mean, that obviously went by the wayside because they've got their whole Western land and all these,
which is quite
bosses.
Good.
Yeah, but why can't we look at doing stuff like that and bringing? Yeah, I'm not going to care that it was done on old school first. It's a tried and true method.
Yeah, the thing is though is that none of the existing skill bosses would fit inside the lens of the Sanctum. Because you have...
Oh, of course, yeah.
No, I get what you're saying, like, in general. Like, Wintertoad is North Frozen. Temperos is Fossil Island fishing and hunter, I believe. Volcano's in Prif, mining and smithing. So, but
if they want to do, as I said, if they want to start doing skilling bosses and things like that, look at what's successful there and how it works and what it offers. And I mean, there is nothing wrong with having a skilling boss, because it is going to be lean forward and you are going to fail, of having best or second best XP in game, especially now that they are phasing out the Proteans and giving you unstable Proteans and things like that. I mean, I don't think I think I've got a couple of Protean packs from doing daily challenges, but other than that, everything that's been on Treasure Hunter has only been unstable the last few months.
Right. And then you also have, and I forgot to mention this one, you have Hespori on OS, which is underneath the Farming Guild, and you actually use your combat to take this one down. But it counts as a skilling boss, because it's a farming skilling boss, but use combat to take it down. So that is the combat adjacent thing. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like we're in a bit of a difficult spot to comment on this because it's so different depending on what skill gets featured.
Yeah.
So,
and again, I mean, also bringing skills up to that sort of 110. I mean, I would prefer everything to go to 120, but even starting off at 110, it gives you that opportunity to start bringing in those skilling bosses and having sort of higher level requirements and higher level XP drops from them.
Yeah. All right. Lemon, any final thoughts before we move on to our patch notes of the week?
No, it's just to say again, I understand why they're doing it, but I do think it's a shame that they're, releasing skilling bosses and the skillers can't do it.
Yeah, the skill peers.
It is what it is. It's probably, if they think it's the better overall decision, then, I trust their judgment. But, it does kind of suck for those people.
Have it open.
It's not like we have a plethora of skilling bosses already, right? So,
yeah. Have it open to them and they only earn sort of 25% of the XP.
No.
They get the drops. But yeah, it is a difficult thing because sort of you do have to lock up behind certain things. And I mean, as being a skilling boss, it is tough that skilling pures are locked out of it. But as Shane said, you sort of understand. You do hamstring yourself when you limit your gameplay. So
yeah, for sure.
All right, patch notes for the week. We have some actually really interesting ones in this batch here for the Sanctum of Rebirth. So starting off in the soul-searching quest, an issue has been fixed that prevented players from reclaiming the potion of zombification during the quest if the player had spoken to the suspicious stranger but had not yet boarded the gondola.
Oops.
Divine Rage's skill guide entry is not listed in the curses section anymore. All right, fair enough. They updated Kezalam within the Sanctum to now phase at 33.3 repeated life points instead of 33% due to feedback. This means that she will now phase at 400k and 200k life points rather than the 396 and 198. I thought this was a funny one in seeing this because, like, we were wondering what was the reason for those numbers, but obviously here it is, you know, the difference between 33 and 33 and a third repeated, right? So that was
truncating your percentages.
Yeah, that was fun to see. I prefer the 400 and 200k myself, so that's good. Fixed an issue where the Shadow Sands Gorilla Axe within the Sanctum of Rebirth would move unintentionally.
I have not seen that, but...
No, I haven't either.
I'm too busy looking at everything else.
True.
Fixed an issue where the scripture of Amiska Daunt wasn't using the correct style damage. It's supposed to be magic. Where are we at on this book, Lemon? I know we talked about it on launch week.
Just a quick correction. It only did magic, and now it will use whatever style you're actually using.
Oh, okay. Okay, dokie, okie dokie.
I have not gone back to using it at all because it's not as good. It's not as good as a full.
It doesn't have the
book,
burst of jazz. It doesn't have the total damage boost of full, and it doesn't have as much AOE as when.
Yeah,
that's my assessment.
I do wonder if this is like a proper damage over time effect for like synergizing with the new magic stuff. I don't know. I have not. I've put on my roar and my ode for all of 2 seconds to look at them, but I haven't actually tried out
that's interesting.
New magic stuff yet. So you know that there maybe there's something there. I haven't heard anybody say anything about the book, so yeah.
Yeah, because that's kind of the same situation I'm on in this. Is that, you know, it feels like it's the budget option if you combined a full and when book together.
Yeah,
but it's not necessarily budget in terms of how much the pages cost.
No, I mean the book itself is extremely cheap. I gave some away a few days ago, last week I guess, and they were like 14 mil each. So like the books themselves are dirt cheap.
Yeah. I don't know. If anybody out there is using this to great effect, let me know, because I'd like to see where this is landing, but I just feel like it's a little bit spread too thin amongst the other books that we have, because we all know where we like using our other ones. So
yeah. And same goes for the Divine Rage. If anybody is actually using it, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I think I think the best
sure
thing
we'll
is
see some use for it. But
is the Amulets of Zealot thing that we talked about on launch week. But
I just don't know if anybody is actually making use of it.
Right, but who wants to give up Soul Split and Split Soul
Exactly.
with Necromancy Arranged?
Yeah,
that's what it comes down to.
Yep.
So. But you could heal yourself with the Ghost and your Excalibur and whatnot, so you wouldn't need that. And if you were just doing Slayer to the point where you didn't need Soul Split or Split Soul for those, then maybe it becomes an option to get the highest class-based damage boost in game. So, added UI pop-ups to the Sanctum of Rebirth in order to give players information about the death mechanics within normal mode. So with this, there is now a UI pop-up for the Divine Protection buff when it's applied. This will appear the first time the player begins an encounter. There's also a pop-up for Resurrection Sickness when that debuff is applied, and this will appear the first time the player begins an encounter. And there is a one-off message that will appear for the first time the player interacts with the Sanctum entrance, noting that deaths are safe in normal mode. And that's something we didn't really drive home much on launch week, was that not only do you have resurrection mode, but deaths are safe. So it's a good sandbox for learning PVM, I think.
Yeah.
Now, this is my patch note of the week, and it might even be a patch note of the year, this next one. It's that the following actions now have improved targeting behavior. Dive will only allow you to target the ground. Intercept only allows you to target other players, and Herblore Bombs only allow you to target NPCs and the ground and other players if in PvP. The dev note on this says that this is a short-term improvement to mitigate against targeting unintended entities while they look for a more global solution. And the reason I like this one so much is that I died numerous times in the Kezalam and Nakatra boss fights because I accidentally targeted my familiar spirit or something to that effect with dive, and I wound up, not moving as a result of that in time.
You're not the only one.
Yep.
So I really appreciate this one. This is good to have here this week. So this might be approaching patch note of the year candidate.
I don't know if there have been I don't know if there are any unintended issues with this, because quite frankly I've only been doing Sanctum. I don't know if there are instances where you normally would have I'm thinking mostly about clues and some of the maybe edge movement cases, but I did hear that some people have had issues with Raksha and clearing the pools with the with scythe.
Apparently Bladed Dive will still target entities.
Yeah, I have not paid enough attention. I've just seen people mentioning it. So
yeah, that is.
If anybody's going to be doing Raksha this week, maybe keep an eye out.
But why are you doing that, right? I mean, it's just greater Ricochet in the other codexes that you want. The commons are garbage at this point there.
Collection logs.
Yeah, some people care about collection logs.
Don't groan at me. I'm
okay,
OCD
you go do Raksha and come back to me and tell me what you think.
I've done Raksha, and I haven't done Raksha. I've been to Raksha. She owns me
David
every
took
time,
you?
But yeah. No. She just owns me every time.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
I don't think I can even get it below half life.
Yeah, it's a boss. Fixed an issue with the 9x9 or 6x6 safe area telegraph used for the Sanctum shockwave attack within the Nakatra encounter in the Sanctum of Rebirth. Did you notice anything different on this one, Lemon, this week? Because I didn't. What is this one about?
I'm not entirely sure which attack this is in reference to.
I think it's the last one because those are the only ones that would have 9x9 because it gets bigger.
The final phase, the one that moves outwards and fills the arena.
Yeah, I
have not noticed anything with it. It sounds like it's only with the final outer ring. Yeah, which I have never really paid any attention to because I always stand right by the inner one.
Yeah. And that was my key, by the way, for getting my hard mode kill this week, was standing right by that inner one and then just watching for the third box to appear. And then whenever that third box appeared, walk in and then a tick later walk out. And that was that. But in any case, there's also big changes to Vermix, of all things, this week here, too. So starting off, when we would spawn Coil Spawn as part of the boss's rotation in hard mode, there's only 2 now. This occurs at the very end of Vermix's ability rotation. So in effect, this is making the boss easier because the number of Coil Spawns that are up do have an impact of how the boss is able to hit through your armor. Hard mode still begins with the 4 Coil Spawns alive. Now, they also amended the target marker that appears during phasing. And I think this was one of the things that they said was going to make its way into next week, is that they wanted to also have a better telegraphing mechanic for when you have to grab the souls, but that was bugged when they launched it, so they rolled that one back with that. But that's going to look really good when that arrives. Removed one of the coil spawns that spawns during phase transition. The channel's power from the Sanctum towards the east and west message is now only shown once per phase. They also amended the above messaging to be more specific, to tell you to actually go and stand there, which I appreciate. During the phase transition, the northwest and northeast coil spawns are only spawned once. So if you manage to kill it, this will give you a bit of safe space to work with. If you kill the coil spawns in the above locations, the souls will spawn faster on the next rotation. That's interesting. And all in all, souls spawn 1.2 seconds earlier in hard mode, so you have to grab them easier, but that really wasn't too much of an imposition this week, I found.
Yeah, a little bit tighter.
Yeah, but it's nothing like a dive won't fix, right? Because most of them you're easy enough to just run to, I found.
Yeah. I don't think I've had one that I have needed to dive to in order to make it. I think all of them happen within running distance. The only times that I've messed up have been, like not paying attention, or I have phased the first phase right while the moonstone attack. You have the pillars popping up.
Right.
So I've run over and then had one come up on the west side of the arena, and then had the what is it? The soul spawn there, so I wasn't actually able to get it. But yeah, this is nice.
Yeah.
This is all nice.
But the biggest thing, and I actually think this is very nice with this one, the soul bomb. It now attacks the area below the player's feet instead of following the player, deals its damage in a 3x3 grid, and telegraphing has been added to indicate the area of effect. So you don't need to resonance and vitpot this one, or resonance and reflect this. You can just run away from it.
Yeah.
Which is good.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Because I felt like it says the soul bomb is incoming, right? Yep. But you have no visual indication how close it is to you. Because by the time you see it, you'd be dead otherwise.
Yeah, and because there's no audio cues for anything right now.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, the soul bomb is the number one thing that kills me at Vermix.
Oh yeah, like I went in after doing hard mode to get the next instance ready, after getting my hard mode kill to get the next instance ready, and then this was on Sunday, and I just forget that the soul bomb is a thing, and the next thing I know, I'm dead. So this is very nice, and I saw this, so good. And if you are on normal mode and you see this, you'll be able to just run away, and I think that's better, since most of the bosses in this boss dungeon are movement based too, so it just leans into that a little bit more. So
yeah.
And finally, in general patch notes, Nomad's bounty rewards will no longer be discarded if the player closes the reward chest without having any inventory or bank space left. Instead, they will be warned that they will be lost on logout if they have no space for them. That's a bit of an edge case, that.
It definitely is.
I went there because when the Underworld achievement set came out, I was doing that, and up until that point, I hadn't done the hard mode of it to get all the soul capes with it. So I had the pleasure of doing that boss fight with Necromancy, and did it in 3 minutes and a bit, and got all the capes at once. Because you remember when that was difficult. Yeah, you remember when that was difficult back in the day when that came out, right?
Well,
yeah.
I still need the fastest cape. I've got all the others.
You should be able to blast it with Necromancy.
But I haven't been there since that first come out, so I should go back and get those capes.
Yeah. Well, that's it for patch notes, everybody. They also have some big news on the way. Obviously, I mentioned that 110 mining and smithing is coming next week, so we're over the moon for that here, because we always were fans of that rework, despite what Mod Jack had to say, and that it wasn't worth the amount of time they put into it for what they could have done instead. Everybody I met absolutely
it was
loved
for the
that.
Players.
It was. Yep. It was. But next week, on April 15th, we have RuneScape Ahead, which is a deeper look into the rest of the 2024 roadmap that was going to show up at RuneFest, but they are going to open the doors and have a look at the longer-term plans that have been informed by what was learned from the 2024 survey. So with this, we'll get some pictures into what could appear in the first half of 2025. It will be a video that will be 8 to 12 minutes long, showcasing various JMODs, covering the rest of 2024 and the first half of 2025, and on the following Friday, there will be a live stream discussing everything that was announced in there. So we'll be covering that next week with 110 Mining and Smithing, but but we don't know anything right now. What would you guys both like to see for 2025?
More quests.
More quests? Okay.
I'm excited for whatever the next batch of 110 skills are going to be.
After mining after fletching and woodcutting.
Yeah, those are the ones that we're going to be getting this year, and then, I think they had said 2 to 3 years to get them all done, which seems ambitious to me. But okay, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Do you think it's time for a new skill?
No.
Yes.
Rework. I mean, I'd love it, but rework the current skills to get them up to date. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, much as I'd love a new skill, I don't mind delaying it a year or two if they're going to make the other skills useful for the current age.
Yeah, I definitely think that the need for it is less given the expansion to 110 for all the skills. But I don't know, necromancy didn't really do it. I mean,
yeah,
necromancy has been great. Necromancy has been great, but this is just combat. This isn't a skill.
Right. People were expecting another archaeology.
Yeah. I think archaeology was that one thing that, it just hit right time, right everything. I don't know that we'll ever repeat that, but I want something a bit closer to that than...
I know Mod Breezy also put out a note saying that he was talking about 110 woodcutting and fletching, posted on X. What sort of things would you like to see from the update? An idea for a new tree, or maybe some QOL, a re-tiering of existing content, a new weapon, new rewards. So that's probably something.
Ironwood trees.
Yeah, or they could go redwood like old school has. That's an option.
No ironwood where you can make a tier 105 bow that's just going to rip through everything.
Oh, that'd be
shoot that primal fanatic that's running around at the moment.
What was that, Lemon?
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a tier 100 bow, similar to what we have coming for the Masterwork sword.
Yeah. But so it's safe to say that 110 woodcutting and fletching will be on that RuneScape Ahead video that's there. And I think the biggest thing that we walk away from with this is knowing that they're keeping on pace with this, because you remember what we said when they first brought the roadmap out, is that, this is here. We've had, obviously the first half a year was filled with a great amount of strife and people wondering where their content was, and that, you really only had Necromancy, then Hero Pass, then Vorkath, and then pretty much drought until you wound up with Osius. So the question is, how do you keep that momentum going? And by delivering RuneScape Ahead, and if they can capitalize on that, I think you continue to, in effect, earn the trust of players back and sell them on your vision, which is another thing we said that they always had to do. So that'll be probably a big thing there too. But, the reason I asked here about a new skill was exactly what you said, in that, we got Necromancy, right? But it felt like you said it was just combat in a different lens.
It was lackluster.
And it wasn't, the same rush that we got with archaeology, or even the same rush we got with something like divination. So, and hey, they said based on the survey, so who knows, right? Maybe every 2 years is the marker for the next skill. Maybe it is.
And it just sort of, Necromancer was just such a weird spot where, your best training was by the skilling method.
The rituals.
The majority of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't mind that. I quite like the rituals, but I mean, this is maybe a strange thing to say, but like, like the XP from Necromancy was just too much. Too much.
It was very fast. Yeah.
Yeah, I like probably my favorite thing about archaeology. Again, this is maybe a weird thing to say, but my favorite thing about archaeology was the XP curve.
Yep.
Because, I spent like roughly equivalent amounts of time, getting from 1 to 99, from 99 to 120, and from 120 to 200 mil. You spent time with all of the early game stuff. You didn't just blitz through it in half an hour.
Right. And with Necromancy.
I really appreciated that.
And with Necromancy.
And you went back and revisited too.
Yeah. That too. And with Necromancy, you had a situation where your best XP didn't begin until level 90, and it was pretty much all, the same until then. Maybe you go, kill some Shadow Warriors or something. So.
Yep.
And that's why I say maybe a new skill. Maybe it's, just to change that of what Necromancy was. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll be here with that for next week. All right. What have we been up to in RS? Pernasius, do you want to go first with your double XP ventures?
Yeah, that's basically all I've been doing. Actually went a lot quicker than I expected. Because I was getting everything, all the artisan skills I wanted to get to sort of the 198 mil, and I was expecting a plus prayer, which was well down. Got all that to sort of that and still had sort of 17 or 18 hours left. So was now working on the gathering skills, which I wasn't expecting to have to do during this double XP. So pretty much everything is at 198 mil, with the exception of thieving, which is at 194, necromancy at 163, and then I've got strength and attack, which are also at 193. So the 200 mil all will probably come in before I hit before hardcore Iron, or the competitive mode Ironman, Group Ironman.
What's the point of going for 200 mil aside from just securing high score spots?
Oh, I don't care about the high score spots. I just like completing.
Is it just
things.
Something to do?
Yeah, it's just I'm that person who just has to. If there's something there to do, I do it. I mean, it's the same reason I did the 4,000 or 40,000 chompy bird things that you had to do.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's just there's something there to complete.
Would you have done the 5,000 Castle Wars games when that was on comp if that was there?
Yes. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I would have gone for. It would have been the last thing I went for, but I would have gone for it.
Oh my god!
And I still am going to go for it because it is something to be unlocked, but there's just no rush on it because it's not added to anything at the moment. But it is part of Completionist. So.
Oh my god. Now, how do you feel come next week when we get 110 mining and smithing and you've already got that and you can't use the new training methods?
Well, that's why sort of things like the Group Ironman are going to be interesting to me now. I've still got my alt accounts that I'm going to sort of go and start doing that. So, it's there. I mean, there'll obviously be some unlocks I'll need to go and do on this account to get to sort of unlock things. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy. My personal thing is, as I've said many times, lift the 200 mil cap or bring in some sort of.
I'm wondering if that will be there if the players have changed on Prestige. I wonder if something to that will be there. Horizontal progression next week. Sounds good.
Yeah.
How about you, Lemon?
I've just been doing Sanctum. So I'm up to, I think, like 220 kills now. I've got 1 wand, 5 orbs, 2 shards, 10 scriptures, and 5 prayer books.
But no pet.
Nice.
And I got the pet tonight.
Okay. So you got the
like 45 minutes before we started recording.
Nice. So
the
you're gonna stay there,
done.
or are you done?
That's what I got to figure out. I have 2 shards. I used one on my necromancy gear, and
Right.
I'm sitting on the other one right now because I would like to. I would like to use them on. I would like to have one for every tier 95, ideally. Yeah. But like realistically, I only need the one because, like, let's be real, I'm using necromancy.
Right.
But like prior to Sanctum coming out, I was working on getting my Bow of the Last Guardian. So like, I would like to use one for the Bow of the Last Guardian that I will theoretically get at some point. But
what
like,
was your main combat style before necromancy?
It kind of depended on what I was doing. So I mean, prior to necromancy, I was just skilling. But I guess before that, when I was doing PVM, I was mostly just doing Telos.
Okay.
And for Telos, I used melee.
Interesting.
So I have not, because most of the magic weapons, or at least the wands, have been locked behind group content.
Yeah.
Virago and AOD, and I don't care for that. I never bothered getting them, so like I haven't really used magic at all, right?
Yeah, fair.
Well, let me rephrase that. I haven't used magic since the times when my noxious staff was my best weapon. So like since like 2016, 2017.
And it was an entirely different game back then.
It's an entirely different game, yeah. I do like melee. I do really like range. I would, I got, I spent some time earlier this year getting the full elite Dracolich. I would love to get a Bow of the Last Guardian and, like actually use it.
Yeah, that's a really nice synergy.
Yeah, I always have this problem with PVM where it's like, you do want to get all of the stuff, but like at the same time, it's like, well, once you get all this stuff, what is there to do? Because it's not, like mains will, get stuff and then sell stuff and then make money and buy hats or something. But it's like, well,
what do you do as an iron person after you're done?
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can keep doing Sanctum because in theory I need 6 of the things, but it's like, I guess I could go back to like Archglacior and try and get like
swords.
4K and like maybe do like a 200 kill streak or something. But like, I don't know, that also sounds kind of miserable.
Yeah, it does. It does.
So I don't know. Like I'm not in a super rush to do PVM stuff. So we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. As for me this week, I finally got my Sanctum hard mode kill on Sunday, I believe it was, or no, Monday. And it was interesting because what it boiled down to, what my limiting factors were, is that I was actually finishing the boss instance and, getting to the point where the Ring of Death would go off or I would die. And I still had a ton of food left, so it wasn't actually using a lot of food, which was surprising to me. But the thing that solved it for me was realizing that in relation to the 4 golden tiles, if you stand on those for the main Sanctum blast mechanics there in Nakatra, for the vast majority of the things that come up, you're going to be 1 to 2 squares away that you can just walk to safety. And for the other one, you can just surge diagonally across the field and you're safe for that. That was the first thing. Then the second thing was realizing that, I really need to up my damage here in the Nephthys phase because they were healing multiple times and I was just wasting a ton of time and resources there. So that was that one. And then the other thing that really just came down was, just making sure that last grid-based mechanic where the grid expands out and gets bigger, was just figuring out the correct timing about when to walk forward on that to avoid that, rather than, trying to run away and do the whole escape mechanic on that. Like, I'll still use a vitality potion just to, make sure I have the HP in case I mess that up. But I found that just, watching it and waiting for the third telegraphing square to appear, that's the point at which I move forward and then back. And I was actually able to do it there in that run and get the hard mode kill. I haven't gone back yet because I had some things I was neglecting on the old school side, let's just say, about that. But it was very satisfying to get, and I do want to just see if I can become more efficient at that, because I think it was like about an 8-minute kill at that point. So,
oh wow,
yeah, I took it slow, very slow for that, but I think it's going to be something that I can refine and work on with that. So when you're doing hard mode Sanctum, are you going all out? Are you doing split soul in the works, or are you still taking it slow?
Split soul in the works, yeah. At some point I need to work up to using the reprisal strat on the whatever that massive attack is called.
The obliterate one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be a ton of free damage. But yeah, soul split, split soul. Yeah, as you alluded to earlier, you really don't actually take that much damage.
No.
Unless you're, messing up
caught in the wrong spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the movement, I find you, and maybe this is just me, but you seem to have a bigger movement grace in Nakatra than you do Kezalam.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I just feeling that, or is it a tick or two slower?
I think it might be a tick. I think it might be a tick slower.
Yeah.
Or Kezalam is a tick faster, however you want to look at it. It feels that way. I don't know if it actually is, but it feels that way. And a part of that just may be, you get your mobility abilities reset with Nakatra.
That too.
Whereas you don't get that with Kezalam.
Yeah. But, I mean, unless you are horribly out of position, I think it's possible to do Nakatra without dive. All you need is surge.
Yes. I mean, it's certainly easier to have dive, but it's certainly doable. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I remember one of the attempts before I got the hard mode kill. The thing that messed me up is that I was out of position due to the scarabs, and in that I misclicked by the scarab and wound up walking into a danger zone rather than clicking on the scarab to stun it. So,
have you been using a Hellhound?
Yes, that was with a Hellhound.
Yeah, we had talked about that, I think, in Discord.
Yeah, Hellhound and Aegis.
Yeah, and I was like, oh yeah, in theory that could help, and then I actually tried it. I'm like, oh wow, this is actually a lot more helpful than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, you just got to remember to keep the prison up, or else it'll die.
Yeah, yeah. So on the final phase, if you miss if you miss moving out of the way, you get hit by one of the attacks. That hits like a 6 or 7K without any damage reduction, but with damage reduction, it hits like a 5K.
Yeah. Which
goes from being something where you can only take one of them before you die, and now suddenly you can take 2 of them before you die.
Bingo.
And that's a significant difference. It gives you a lot more leeway.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at it from the perspective, that last part, like the thing is, do you have enough adrenaline to debill or reflect before going into the obliteration thing? Because ideally, if you have, let's say you have devotion up for the obliteration, you can use that there. But can you also debill or reflect that Sanctum Blast one to lower the damage? Or can you not, because it's the floor damage?
You can, yeah.
Okay.
So you can either Vit Pot, you can reflect, you can Disruption Shield won't block it. It will, I think, reduce it by half.
Yeah, because it's
so
big.
You do have some options to mitigate some of that damage if you realize quick enough that you've messed up.
Right, and then but the trick is making sure that you have enough of a defensive available after that to survive the obliteration, whether that be going into devotion or the reflect, debilitate, like you would do previously on that. So it's all about resource management at that stage. But then maybe you're putting yourself in a bad position because you want to have as much, DPS burst potential available after that to ensure that you're not 3-cycling this thing. The kill that I was successful on was actually a 2-cycle, believe it or not. I thought I'd be going for more, but it was actually only a 2-cycle.
Good. Lovely.
But, yeah, that's a lot of PVM lingo there. Sorry if I put you to sleep, Bert.
No, I'm happy listening because I can't even kill it on normal mode, and you guys are talking about, it's so easy, don't take damage on hard mode.
No, it's not easy. It's not easy. If you ever want to go in there and walk through normal mode, I will happily go with you.
No, it's a boss that you can do by yourself, so I need to learn it. So I've got 3 kills I've got to do with for Reaper, so I am going to get them done. It's just a learning thing, and like anything, it's a skill thing, and once I get it done, once I learn it, I'll be able to do it. It's just a matter of practice and not getting frustrated and punching my monitor.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and at that point, go do something else.
Which is what I do, yeah. I go in there, I take 3 attempts. My thing is always, if I die 3 times, I walk away, because then I just get too frustrated. I know myself. So it's like 3 attempts. If I can't do it, take a break, go do something else, and, you'll work it out.
Yeah, and, that's what I do for PVM in general. I seldomly, PVM for more than an hour plus in a row. I basically just go for whatever.
I can't do more than an hour.
So
yeah,
but all right, let's do some achievements then. We have of course, the deluge of double XP achievements here. So starting off on the 7th, we have Adani with 120 fletching, Demi Heights with 99 firemaking, Dad Engineer with 120 strength, Edict of Chaos got 120 divination and smithing, Edict got 99 agility, Lord Zorik got 99 firemaking, Scotty XOX got 200 million runecrafting XP. Then moving on to the 6th, we have Dane Karai with 99 firemaking, 99 divination, and Edict again with 99 dungeoneering.
All right, on the 6th of August, we have Edict with 99 divination, Juju Makin with 120 invention, Luminos with 120 necromancy, MedQuest with 120 Herblore. I got all the 120s apparently. Z with 120 Constitution, and Avocadoned with 200. Oh no, sorry, I'm on to the 5th of August with Avocadoned at 200 mil magic XP. Congratulations. Dane Karai 99 cooking. On the 4th, we have Darth Wolfus with 120 prayer, Dat Engineer with 200 mil crafting XP. Huge. Meriwether with 99 necromancy, Robosaur Rex with 120 hunter, and Samurai Jack with 120 crafting. Congratulations.
Then moving on to August the 3rd, we've got Darth Wolfus with 120 rune crafting, Dumb Dragon with 99 herblore, Lord Zorik with 99 ranged, One Chunk Man 99 slayer, Orman with 99 necromancy, Zokrex with 120 rune crafting. They were all on the 3rd. Moving on to the 2nd of August, we have Dexian with 99 agility, Edict of Chaos 120 thieving, Edict with 99 summoning, our very own Trekkie who plays under J1, J2, J3 with 120 necromancy, Jammy Jenny with 99 necromancy, and Lord Zorik picked up 3 with 99 dungeoneering, 99 thieving, and 99 herblore, which he did on the 1st. Congratulations, everyone.
Nicely done. Nicely done. The double XP storm, as we call it, of achievements. Moving on, I have a pick of the week this week, and it's an app available on iOS and Mac, but I have the iOS version linked in the show notes for anybody who is interested in such a thing, and it's called The Clock. Now, you might not think that you need this since your iOS device has a clock in it already, but what this is that this is a world clock that has way, way more features than Apple's clock app, and what it allows you to do is it allows you to add a multitude of cities that you might be working across, and I use this for our group of producers and co-hosts to see that, hey, we're planning the monthly bit for next Tuesday. It's at this time for me. Does this time work, for tennis? Does it work for Panasius or Dones, whoever? And the idea behind it is that you enter the cities that you want or the time zones that you want for that time. And then what you can do is that you can just scroll through by swiping left to right at a time. So let's say you wanted to plan something for 2 p.m. on Friday, and you say, what does that look like in Eastern Time? What does that look like over in the UK? And what does that look like in Australia? Well, it says, of course, that 2 p.m. my time is 6 a.m. for Parnassus. So we might consider doing something at a different time as a result of that. So it's just something that's actually really good if you work across multiple time zones in planning things, and that you can just simply say, it's going to be this day at this time, drag the time and see what it is for everybody else. So when you go message somebody and say, hey, can we do this at this time? You say, can we do this on Friday at 6 a.m.? He'll say no, and then we choose a different time associated with that. It's also got widget support, so that if you use the widgets on iOS, you can set it up to display certain windows. So I have one set up on its own home screen that just shows all the times of everybody that we work with in doing the show, so I can just at a quick glance to see what time it is in all these different time zones. And it's also got options to show what business hours are, so that you can see, is it a time at which you might reach someone and make a business call or something to that effect. And it's a very low cost. I forget how much it is, but it's very cheap. $2.99 Canadian on the App Store, so probably $1.99 US. But it's very fully featured. There's also a Mac OS version as well if you want to run something like that on your Mac in addition to your phone. But it's just a nice tool to have when it comes to scheduling things across multiple people and multiple time zones. And the reason I did this is that I was always, Parnassus U, when I would say, hey, do you want to be on the show? I'd have to double check what time it was because I kept forgetting the offset for your time zone. But then I realized, I can just do this now, and I can put in the right time and ask you, and it rolls out. So,
and because I'm a slack bastard and don't work, I'm pretty much available all the time anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, with this, I also just I included the link in the show notes over at update.show. But yeah, the widgets are really what I use that for. I look at that multiple times a day, and whenever we're having somebody new on, I always just say, hey, where are we at, and pull that across the screen, and it allows me to see what time it is there. So it's called The Clock. That's the pick of the week. All right. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end of this episode. Only a couple episodes away from the big 1,000. I also did want to just do a quick mention out there that it was this week, 20 years ago in 2004, that the fan site, RSBANDB, RuneScape Bits and Bytes, came to be. We started off with skill signatures and calculators, both of which are still on the website, and the calculators in particular have found a new use amongst people who play old school, because they have those training methods there and can pull in from the old school data. So that's how this whole thing started out, was with signatures and calculators, and of course a year after that grew to the podcast that you're listening to now, 1,000 episodes later, almost on that, and 20 years of RSBNB. So
I remember using it for my house designer.
Yeah, we still have that too. We still have that too. I have it actually on my to-do list to add the new old school rooms to it.
Yeah, when I first started playing and I found you guys, a house designer, because my house was a mess, and it was nice just to be able to play around, move rooms, and then just go into the game and just do it.
I think if I'm looking at tools that I made, I know like we had a number of people, make things for the website. I think the thing that I'm probably the most proud of is the house designer. I think that was one of mine. That and the Grand Exchange portfolios, which I never really found an actual thing for, aside from just looking up items, like a thing to do with it. But
I do miss the old skill of the month too, but I am happy that the very last one that we did, I was the actual winner of. So.
Yeah, you know what the problem with skill of the month was?
Everyone hit 200 mil.
Everyone hit 200 mil, and Double XP's just made the numbers astronomical with that.
It did, yeah. And then all the bonus XPs and things that were coming in and such.
We also had something called RuneWire as well back in the day that was a precursor to Twitter and X. And, unfortunately, if we would have hooked into the API at that point, we would have been ahead of the team, but we didn't want to do the API stuff then. Unfortunately, you can't do that now. But, so many things there. Head on over to RSBANDB.com and just take a cruise through the website. But that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode. Lemon, where can people find you? Just in game? I think you're Squiggly Lemon or something to that effect.
Yeah, or you can just find me in the RSBANB Discord. And if you're listening, you should join the Discord and chat.
Yeah, update.show/Discord. That's good. That's good. But thank you for being here and sharing your insights on Group Ironman.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure coming on board.
Of course, of course. And if you guys want update delivered automatically to you, best way to do that is to subscribe, update.show/subscribe. We're on all the podcast listeners out there, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, Pocket Casts, and more, as well as YouTube as well, youtube.com/RSBNB. But with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBNB Update 999, discussing level 110 mining and smithing. See you then, everyone. Take care.
Happy Skype and all.
Bye.